All right, welcome. We're jumping right into a masterclass that's all about rethinking the traditional career path. We're going to explore a whole framework for reaching financial freedom, not in 40 years, but maybe in as little as 10. So let's get into it.
So let's just start with the one big question that unlocks this whole conversation. Do you really have to work until you're 65? I mean, for generations, that's just been the default, right? It's what everyone did. But just asking the question, well, that opens the door to a completely different way of thinking.
And you know, once you start questioning that timeline, it leads you right to the core philosophy behind this whole movement. This isn't just about numbers and spreadsheets. It's a fundamental shift in how you think. It's about totally redefining what retirement even means in the first place.
See, the main goal here isn't just to stop working, it's to achieve something called financial independence. Now, this definition is so important. It doesn't mean you have to be rich with a mansion and a private jet. It just means your investments are making enough money on their own to cover your life's expenses. The moment that happens, your day job becomes completely optional. That's the freedom we're talking about. That's the real prize.
This slide really just lays out the two paths so clearly. On one hand, you've got the traditional route. It's all time-based. You work for 40-plus years, save a little bit, and hope you can stop around age 65. But the FIRE approach? That's totally freedom-based. The path is way shorter, but it's more intense. You're saving like over half your income, all with the goal of buying back your time and giving yourself choices.
So you're probably thinking, how is that even possible? It sounds so extreme. But the math behind it is honestly shockingly simple. It really all boils down to just one single, incredibly powerful variable.
And here it is. This is the whole game, right here. It's not about trying to pick the perfect stock or timing the market. It's simply about the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap, your savings rate, is the accelerator pedal for your financial independence. The bigger the gap, the faster you go.
And the impact of that savings rate is, well, it's just staggering. I mean, look at this table. If you save a typical 10%, you're looking at a 51-year career. But just jump to a 50% savings rate and boom, that drops to only 17 years. If you can get to 75%, you're talking about just 7 years of work. This is the simple, powerful math that drives this entire movement. It's a real game changer.
Okay, so you know you need to save a lot, but how much is enough? What's the actual target number? Well, this is where a widely accepted guideline called the 4% rule comes into play. Basically, historical data suggests you can safely take out 4% of your total investment portfolio every single year and you won't run out of money for at least 30 years. It's the key to making your nest egg last.
And that 4% rule gives us this awesome, really simple multiplier to work with. Think about it. If you're pulling out 4% a year, that's 1/25th of your total. So that means your total nest egg needs to be 25 times your annual spending. It's just the inverse of 4%, and it gives you a super clear target to aim for. And here's the formula you can use, like right now. Just figure out how much you spend in a year. Multiply that by 25, and that's it. That's your target number for financial independence. The really crucial thing here is that your goal is anchored to your actual lifestyle, not some random number like $1 million. If you can learn to live on less, your target number gets smaller, and you get there way faster.
Okay, so if your savings rate is the key to everything, then the strategy is pretty straightforward. Make that rate as high as you possibly can. It's all about widening that gap between what you earn and what you spend. And you really only have two main levers to pull.
So if you want to make the biggest impact on your spending, you have to focus on where the money is actually going. For most people, the big three, that's housing, transportation, and food, make up something like 70% of their entire budget. So cutting back here isn't about skipping a few lattes. It's about making big, structural changes that result in massive, almost automatic savings month after month.
So the strategy is basically a two-pronged attack. First, you play defense. You spend less, and you target those big three expenses for the biggest wins. But you also have to play offense. You earn more. You go for that raise. You start a side hustle, whatever it takes. The absolute key here, though, is that as your income goes up, you can't let your spending follow it. All that extra money has to go straight into savings to really widen that gap.
Now, all that money you're managing to save, it can't just sit in a bank account doing nothing. It has to become the engine that powers your freedom. This is where we talk about turning all those savings into a source of passive income.
This simple equation, this is the finish line. The whole goal of your investment engine is to get to the point where the money your investments make is greater than what it costs you to live. The moment that happens, you're no longer dependent on a paycheck. You've done it. You've achieved freedom.
So how do people do this? Well, the most common approach is investing in things that generate income without you having to actively work for it.
Usually this means low-cost index funds that give you a piece of the whole stock market and pay out dividends. Sometimes it means other things, like rental properties that provide a steady cash flow, but the goal is always the same. Build streams of income that work for you so you don't have to.
Of course, this all sounds great in theory, but it definitely comes with some real-world questions and challenges. So let's do a quick reality check and talk about some of the most common and totally valid criticisms.
Okay, the next major concern is about lifestyle. If you're saving 50, 60, even 70% of your income, doesn't that mean you have to live a life of miserable deprivation? Eating ramen noodles every night in some tiny apartment?
The proponents of this will tell you it's not about sacrifice, it's about being intentional. It's a complete shift in mindset. Our consumer culture trains us to constantly ask, what's the most I can afford? This approach flips that question on its head and asks, what's the least I need to be genuinely happy? The goal is to get off what's called the hedonic treadmill, where you have to keep spending more and more just to feel the same level of happiness.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important point of all. Financial independence isn't really about sitting on a beach sipping margaritas for the next 50 years. That would get pretty boring. The real goal is to buy yourself the freedom to choose your life's work without ever having to worry about the paycheck. It's about finally having the time and the space to pursue what truly matters to you. So the final question isn't a financial one, it's a personal one. With that kind of freedom, what would you choose?